The other book that I wrote is called THIRD WORLD MAGICKS. It's this little black book here. I actually don't have a copy of it, which is why I'm grabbing it from the front there. I haven't had a copy for over 8 months, I think. And there was a weird issue where I said I didn't want a barcode on the back of it because I hate Amazon, and John said that's fine. We'll find a printer who will do it without a barcode, and we did. And then that printer had issues with something else that John was publishing, so he said, "We're done with them, Michael. Sorry." So then the book was out of print for like a good 6 months, and then he said, "Would you be okay doing a barcode?" I said, "If that's what we need to do, we'll do it." So this is the newest version that has a barcode. There's like 3 iterations of it. This is the newest and best version, and I will be reading from it. And just to give you all an idea of what this is about, it's in 2 parts. It is about a music writer who is trying to become a better music writer, and then the middle tells you to wait 2 weeks before reading the second part, and then when you come back, it cuts to an island full of people that are building things, and the island is run by a person or an entity called Black Magician, right? And then you try to figure out how these 2 things are tied together. And I think John liked the book because he published it, so that means something. And the last thing I'll say is, there are some words that I don't know how to pronounce out loud. I just write them all the time. And English is not my first language either, so if I mispronounce things, you can raise your eyebrow, but don't judge me, please. So we're going to start with Third World Magicks here by me. And there's a cool little graphic in the front where it's just a bunch of hands in clouds, well, gloved hands, and there is some meaning to it, but you have to read the book to find out. And there's 3 copies of it actually back there with the lovely New Material Books people. Thank you for coming out, by the way. Let's give them a hand, actually. Both days they've been here. Thank you for coming. It means a lot. So the opening here is called Find Out What Happens When People Stop Being Real. Find out what happens when people stop being polite and start getting real. And real is spelled R-E-E-L. Blank Zizou, this is the name of the main character, Blank Zizou. Blank Zizou is writing a long-form essay on clang, farb, and melody. She feels the article is either going to make or break her career. Zizou submits the story to her editor, who's called Beach Baby, and in the 3rd paragraph of the body of the email writes, "I really don't have much else to say. It's something I've been working on for a very long time, and I feel like it's finally ready." A few weeks go by. Eventually, the article is accepted, edited, and then published, but no one in the office really says anything about it, not even on the internet. Zizou brings us up at a staff meeting the following week that the article is something she worked on for a very long time. Beach Baby addresses Zizou and says it was good, seriously, well written, nice job. Beach Baby also says pretty quickly, and to no one in particular, more to the room, as if to totally avoid the subject or confrontation, "There's some obscure musician from Serbia coming in this week. Someone needs to write about him." And then Zizou, in that particular moment, feeling cheated and unwanted, becomes even more dissatisfied with herself and her job because she believes the article should have been praised, or at the very least given more attention, maybe even featured on the front page of the magazine's website. An hour passes. After all the stories are taken, nobody, it turns out, is interested in writing about the obscure musician from Serbia, so naturally, to look good in front of her boss, Beach Baby, and also all of her coworkers, and to show that she's ready to do almost anything to succeed, Zizou raises her hand and volunteers herself, even though she has already assigned 2 other articles, a featurette on Japanese noise artist Merzbow, and an exhaustive 100 Songs of the Decade list, complete with personal commentary. Beach Baby looks at Zizou and says, "Zizou, thank you, and that's great, and you'll be writing with bloodrip.exe. That's the 3rd character called bloodrip.exe. Beach Baby points to an entity sitting nearest to a window toward the back of the room and says, "That's bloodrip.exe. At home, Zizou discovers the music of the obscure musician from Serbia on Apple Music and finds it to be terribly uninteresting, but at the same time realizes that this is something she must do to succeed. Zizou scours the internet for articles, anything really, but can't seem to find much information on this obscure musician from Serbia. One person says, "This music will take you to another place." Another person says, "Truly something to experience before you die." Zizou freaks out a little bit and has this mild panic attack, but that's normal and totally par for the course because that's what Zizou does. Zizou stresses out some more and thinks about the rest of the week even though it hasn't happened yet, and decides that not everything in life is always perfect, and that you must do things you don't always want to do to succeed. Zizu decides that if she can tough it out for a few more years, make a few necessary sacrifices, and show that she's truly dedicated to what she's truly passionate about, which is becoming a world-renowned music critic, she will make a name for herself in the business eventually, and maybe even fulfill her dream of meeting another truly great music writer, someone to be with. She is lucky, after all, and Zizu knows this all too well, to be writing for one of the top music magazines in the country, and besides, after searching for and finding them on Facebook, realizes bloodrip.exe is kind of cute. It's a few days later, they're riding in a taxi on their way to the show. Bloodrip.exe turns to Zizu and says, "We're going to need at least 2 quotes about the instruments. Apparently a bunch of them he built himself, and then the rest is all just organ. I did some research on the internet. People really think it's important that we talk about that, so I think that's also neat." Zizu turns to bloodrip.exe and says, "That is kind of neat about the organ and everything else," and then thinks to herself, "I really need to play it cool in front of bloodrip.exe." They arrived at the place with the obscure musician from Serbia. The manager of the obscure musician from Serbia greets bloodrip.exe and says to Zizu, "Abu Mogard," which is the name of the musician, "is in the upstairs dining room by himself, so now, maybe, might be the best time to interview him." They head upstairs. Zizu shakes the hand of Abu Mogard and asks if it's okay to take pictures. The interpreter explains something to Abu Mogard, and Abu Mogard scratches the top of his head and nods. Zizu takes a couple portrait shots and then a handful of Abu Mogard standing next to his instruments. Half an hour passes. Bloodrip.exe asks Abu Mogard questions about his upbringing, his musical education, his favorite time of year, his upcoming projects, potential collaborations, sources of inspiration, favorite films, and of course the instruments. Abu Mogard doesn't say too much about himself or anything else really. As a matter of fact, Zizu finds most, if not all, of Abu Mogard's answers to be supremely dull and generic. Bloodrip.exe at the end says, "Thank you," and excuses themselves from the room. Zizu follows. Bloodrip.exe says, "I hope I asked enough relevant questions." Zizu says, "Yeah, it's fine, I think you did. If you didn't, we'll figure something out, I'm sure." Zizu thinks, "I still gotta play it cool in front of bloodrip.exe." It's a couple hours later, and it's right before the show. Zizu heads downstairs to the bar and finds a woman with a face like fire, and introduces herself and says, "I am writing an article on Abu Mogard for a music magazine." The woman with the face like fire nods and explains to Zizu that though it is certainly fascinating and interesting to have someone like an obscure musician from Serbia come to perform at their concert venue, it is also not very lucrative for them and certainly bad for business. It's things like that that cause us to go out of business, you know? Zizu says, "So is this your place?" And the woman with the face like fire says, "Me and the husband both," and tilts her head toward a man with eyes like the sky. At the same place, directly below downstairs, bloodrip.exe is interviewing a few of the attendees. First, a man with ears like the galaxy who says, "These sorts of things happen all the time. The obscure musician from some obscure place, and then all the local music magazines come to write about it," and then he points to bloodrip.exe's face. "Because he's obscure, it does nothing for the community." Another man, this one with a face like the moon, says, "The young people who pay to come and see these shows, watch, no one will come to show after your article publishes. We won't even be able to get back Mr. Abu Mogard to come and perform in this town ever again because of you two." In looking for bloodrip.exe, Zizu goes back upstairs. She finds the musician, his back to her, just standing there, all by himself. His instruments are all gone and there's nothing left in the room. Abu Mogard does not realize that Zizu is watching him. He's positioned by one of the windows, caressing the nape of his neck, looking out into space. Zizu doesn't say anything and watches for a bit. Eventually, growing bored of this man, Zizu quietly exits and walks back downstairs. Zizu finds bloodrip.exe back at the bar, drinking and talking to the woman with the face like fire. By the way, this is John's favorite part of the book, so pay attention. They finish their conversation, and the woman with the face like fire gets up to leave. Bloodrip.exe says, "How are things?" Zizu says, "Do you mean with like life or me or just," and points at her legs, "right now." Bloodrip.exe laughs and says, "Whatever you want." Zizu sits and orders drinks for the two of them and talks about grad school and the musics of Tim Hecker, MC Mac, One O Tricks Point Never, Ben Frost, Microstoria, JD Twitch, The Fantasy, Kaylee Malone, Shinichi Tobe, Serpent with Feet, Holly Herndon, Danny Brown, Cube, DJ Punisher, Aja, Somi, Rage Against the Machine, Snail Mail, Jenny Haval, Dip in the Pool, Subjoy, Trudge, Actress, Gene Hunt, Wu-Tang Clan, Sun, Suzanne Ciani, SD Leica, Harry Forbes, Philip Glass, The National, Slacker, Aya, Cueto, Ludo Lento, Turin, Sufjan Stevens, The Virgins, Kelman Duran, Noriko Miyamoto, Beatrice Dillon, Conks Pax, Mark Juliana, Spirit of the Beehive, Planning to Rock, Terminal 11, Don Cherry, Minimal Violence, Lightning Bolt, Tangerine Dream, Tim Reaper, Perfect Mother, Ill Ease, XXX Tentacion, Cabaret Voltaire, Fuji, Fujita, Phoebe Bridgers, Thames, Mary Lattimore, Chavinsky, Testy, Rolly Porter, Ghost Poet, These New Puritans, Jamie XX, DJ Stingray, RXM Reality, Vajak, Morning a Black Star, Fire Tools, Takami Hasegawa, DeWitt Eklund, Sevet Eric, Dead, Japan Droids, Luke, J. Paul, Laurel Halo, Zombie, Indigo D'Souza, Mort Gartson, Jay Lynn, Scander, Robert Cox, Moist96, Intronaut, LCD Sound System, Boris, Lamelda, Mitski, IBM, Bjork, Caroline Polachek, Tom Jarmy, Little Baby, Beat Detectives, Evan Parker, Grouper, Wendy Carlos, Yeji, The Slits, Jay Dilla, Ethel Kane, MF Doom, William Fields, Aphex Twin, Duval Timothy, Amy Dabbs, Terrence Dixon, Caitlin Aurelia Smith, John Glacier, Arpanet, Gang Gang Dance, Rina Sawayama, Rude Ass Tinker, Gage, Makwada, The Zen Men, Have Life, Wahaha, Julian Casablancas, Joe Hisaichi, La Fraîcheur, Adrian Lenker, Hera Alonso, Voldemort, Zach Hill, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, Suicide, Elsa Hewitt, Angelo Badalamenti, Moyne, Sunoco, Kate, NV, DJ Harlow, Shy Girl, Bad Bunny, Francis Bebe, Wanda Group, Senyawa, Food Pyramid, Drakeo the Ruler, Sunkill Moon, BD 1982, Angel Bat Dawid, Dwight Sykes, Naoki Asai, Mats Erlandson, Amnesia Scanner, Zip Code, Toshifumi Hanada, Prince, Burial, Kim Crimson, Yellow Swans, Little Heavy, Megan Thee Stallion, Black Midi, Dogleg, Last Marhog, BBC Radiophonic Workshop, Greg Fox, Savdik Eric, Tomaga, Samsuo, HRD Vision, Freddie Gibbs and Mad Lib, Deer Hunter, Lyra Pramuk, Manistrin, Remco Shah, Angel Olsen, Tony Lugo, Galaxy Express 555, Patrick Balaga, Lee Gamble, Rabbit, Ka, Rogue State, Emma, Giant Claw, Glowface, The Soft Pink Truth, Otekra, Bill Stone, Soshi Takeda, Ye Gods, Grimes, Corliss, Jeff Parker, Sexors, Moses Sumney, Playboy Cardi, Aaron Dillaway, East of Eden, Minor Threat, Kiwanoid, Soccer Mom, Finesse, Tom Mudd, Blood Incantation, Matna Roberts, BB Sitters Club, US Girls, Ocean Size, Lotic, FK Twigs, Fiona Apple, Panache, The Field, Godspeed, exclamation mark, you Black Emperor. Actually, it's Godspeed, you, exclamation point, Black Emperor. There you go. I did that wrong. Mika Levy, John Mouse, Lucci Gooch, DPI, Gampman, Jesse Lanza, Fugazi, Katia Yonder, Kenny Larkin, L with 4 L's, Visionist, Joanna Newsom, John Fukumachi, Cafe Ale, RB Chambers, Venivasu, Vangelis, Shabazz Places, Huerco S, Farah Abraham, Merzbow, Non-Local Forecast, The Armed, Kendrick Lamar, Chance, Burna Boy, Yuri Suzuki, Oxbow, Stars of the Lid, Heiko, NRMA, DJ Overdose, The Raincoats, Florian T. M. Zeisig, Caspo, Ross from Friends, Huraumi Hosono, CD Slopper, Wobbly, Special Interest, King Cruel, Jam City, Glue Boy, Zenkron, The Knife, Kleine, Vegan, Jung Fry, Route 8, Sophie, Terza, DJ Rashad, Lorenzo Seni, Bogdan Rosinski, Quick Sales, James Blake, Love Shadow, Skullflower, Pulsimeter, Pantia, Softcore Soft, Pusha T, Fax, Dental, or DNTEL, I guess, the Kaleda, Ariel Pink, Sololi, Charlie XEX, Bartiz Strange, Liquid Sun, Rich Gang, Pink Flag, Bisque, Lil Uzi Vert, Yusu, Prequel, Roland Ray, Lego Welt, Andrew Hung, The Microphones, Black Bones, Steve Hochschild, Kea, D'Angelo, Navy Blue, Metal Fingers, Taped Over Memory, Tommy Wright III, Panda Bear, Kelly Ruth, Amen Dunes, Vatican Shadow, Frank Ocean, Indopan, Half Mortal, Peter Mannerfelt, Lorraine, Zane Trow, Mike Shannon, Bill Callahan, Jane Incorporated, Saloli, The Caretaker, Supremes, Cyborg 95, Halu Merja and the Volius, Dark O, Lil Noid, Hidden Spheres, Infinite Body, Luke Ferrari, Titus Andronicus, Proswell, 18 Plus, Ways Blood, Haim, Senyawa, Careless Coverdale, Old Tower, Rainforest Spiritual Enslavement, Wolves in the Throne, Delroy Edwards, John Frusciante, Ski Mask, Daft Punk, Kelly Lee Owens, Rosa, Jim O'Rourke, Bo Wanzer, Renee Nahara, Cherry Stones, Mint Julep, Hannah Diamond, 100 Gex, Andy Stott, DJ Panther, Lawrence English, James Ferraro, Beach House, Holy Fuck, Destroyer, Eli Kessler, Resund, Leisha Crampton, Ioki, Steve Reich, Caro Bonito, More Mother, Emma, Jacob Ogawa, Hexa, A.G. Cook, Princess Nokia, Claro, The Humble Bee, Lorraine James, Young Thug, Fatima Al-Qadiri, Julia Holter, Death Grips, ZS, Raphael, Anton, Irisari, MJ Guider, PC Music, Inster, Wakahachi, John Adams, Blair Sound Design, Arca, Jesse Ware, Mike, Big Feeth, Porridge Radio, Inga Copeland, Aaron Couples, Viagra Boys, Head Candy, Salamanda, Knocked Loose, Graham Lambkin, Jason Lasetley, Autoerotic Christ, Equinox, Nubia Garcia, Bartiz Strange, King Woman, Omar Suleiman, Triad God, Salem, Macintosh Plus, Mount Erie, Adam TM, Bill Orchid, John Fay, Nina Kravitz, Idols, Louis Cole, Little B, Alan Vega, Flypan AM, Clipping, with a period at the end, Young Lean, Scott Walker, Sebastian, Ants, Yellow, Gas Flames, Eve Toomer, June, Nicholas Jar, Layla Sakini, Star Searchers, William Bazinski, Chino Amobi, Lucy Dacus, Lorne, Helen, Thundercat, and Dean Blunt, and how all of them are changing the world right now. I'm sweating. She's also in the midst of researching minimal ambient music from the 20th century for a special feature she plans to write later in the year. Bloodrip.exe says, have you pitched any of this to Beach Baby yet? Zizu says, no, I think maybe I might submit to another magazine. Bloodrip.exe says, oh my. Zizu says, I feel like it's maybe time to branch out. And Bloodrip.exe says, brave. Music starts. The opener is some kid from Japan. It's just him on stage with an upright piano, effects pedals, and 7 microphones. They watch from the bar. Zizu looks up the kid on her phone. Bloodrip.exe says they find the music to be kind of soothing. Zizu waits for the first song to finish, and as the people are clapping, continues with her story and delves into the specifics of how she spends most of her evenings watching YouTube videos of mountains and saves dozens of pictures of mountains onto her laptop. Bloodrip.exe says, what's the deal with the mountains? Zizu says she believes mountains are linked to the energy and secrets of the cosmos. She tells Bloodrip.exe that her favorite mountain is Mount Kilimanjaro, and that she's been reading a lot of books and articles on quantum chromodynamics. Bloodrip.exe thinks about this for a bit and says, I don't know what that is. They change topics and talk instead about their Pinterest boards, the 7 Instagram accounts they manage for fun, how life will always be a mystery to everyone and how they still don't know what they want to do for a career, and how the whole music writing for them is just an easy and quick thing maybe. Zizu says, what do you mean quick? Bloodrip.exe says, I mean I like music and all that just as much as the next person, but I could never see anyone writing about it for more than a couple years, seriously. Zizu makes a face and says, I don't understand. Bloodrip.exe says, everyone at the office, they're all in their 20s or something. Some are in their 30s, but mostly, early 30s, I don't know. I mean, writing about music feels super transient to me. It's a stepping stone to something much greater, or, something at least that's much better than something else that you might, really want to do. What I mean? Zizu looks at Bloodrip.exe and doesn't say anything. As a matter of fact, looking at Bloodrip.exe right now, Zizu doesn't see anything in them. She thinks about the words and what they mean to her. Zizu thinks, if I could no longer write about or talk about music, I think I might die. And it's at this specific moment that Zizu realizes how she was so wrong about Bloodrip.exe. She decides Bloodrip.exe is no longer worth it. Bloodrip.exe says something about earplugs and points to the stage. The opener, the kid from Japan, is now done with his set. People begin to gather in front of the stage. Abu Mogard is about to play. Zizou stands and walks directly into the crowd. Bloodrip.exe calls for her and says something like, "Wait," or "Where are you going?" Zizou doesn't pay attention. She just keeps walking. And then Abu Mogard finally appears around 11:16 p.m. There's smoke and fog and haze and purple lights. He begins his set with what Zizou would later describe to Beach Baby as soft and simple music, just floating organ sounds and scattered reverb pads, almost like a sound check, a lot of it unassuming. Let it be said, Zizou is not impressed. And then it picks up. Zizou realizes that in a live setting, the musician's music is nothing like the Apple music she previewed. The music becomes much more powerful and immediate, almost palpable. The music is loud and enormous. On stage, Abu Mogard's setup is minimal. You might never think a table with just a handful of custom synthesizers, an organ, some cassette decks, and a few effects pedals could produce such great sounds. Zizou stares hard at the musician on stage. Compared to a more dynamic performance from like a rock and roll band or even a full orchestra, watching one man on stage for something like 90 minutes just pushing buttons and turning knobs might seem like an uninteresting activity to the layperson, but to Zizou, this was heaven. The cold electronic blips, the distant ambient washes, the high-definition surround sound atmospherics, the languid synthesizer swellings, the deep bass rumblings of the organ, the oversaturated tape hiss, the drippy cavernous echoes, the otherworldly wind chime sounds, the hazy buzzing effects, the hushed murmur and din of unintelligible human voices and side conversations happening at all times, the waves of static. It didn't matter to Zizou anymore what anyone else had to say about music. Abu Mogard was a prophet. She closes her eyes and succumbs to the ambience of it all. It's at this point that Zizou begins to experience a moment of higher consciousness. And then this is the part in the book where the main character experiences, where's John? John, how do you pronounce that thing? Something syndrome, Stendhal? Stendhal syndrome, where it's you start crying when something is so beautiful, like a piece of art. So I'm just going to take you through that quickly and we'll be done here. Albumin particulates drip down to the floor into the pores of the high-strength fortress concrete. Zizou heavy glides over atomic elements of bilirubin, guanidine, and mucoproteins. She wobbles toward a spire structure, all crystal shards tumbling from out of an imagined sky. A sharp ambient haze manifests, erasing and eviscerating everything, all in real time. Ambient occlusions, distant sculptures, reality unglued. The bright muted clank of heavenly gems. The shattered dome reduced to nothing. Shadow people. A proto-terror blimp, throwaway components and techno-computer parts from bygone era. The worst type of acid rain. Zizou's calico shirt dissolves and ruptures from within on a Yakuza level, melting and intertwining with the Mikado and twill weave of her coat jacket as ruby-tinged and translucent body fluids jettison out and pierce the night blue sky. Zizou phases for a moment and thinks about the universe, her essay, about her desire for recognition, her love for all things music, her passion for deep research, about all. You need my microphone? Can you give me 3 minutes and 45 seconds?
Yeah.
Thank you, Charlie. About her broken dreams, her student loans, her noticeable lisp, her receding hairline, and about everything Bloodrip.exe said. A space beyond the black void of time, devoid of mosquito noises and smoke air, collapses to another corner of even more black void. The clinking of silver objects in an abject hole, drifting through the surface of a crushed earth. Disrupting flows of stagnation that increase with audible intervals from an irregular sort of blood chant, with periodic glints of bright flash from reflective lunar metals. Rusted steel objects propped against an aged building, peaking with prisms and tesseracts, the heavens overcast with a washed-out orange-red ambient glow, the stench of ambient decay. Stairs that lead to a place overflowing with blood bricks and chemical soot. Meat hooks refracting the syruped blue-gray light of a dusted-out moon. In the stillness of absolute dimness, cavern rocks shifting invisibly in the absence of any sort of light might allow for the nigh impossible to occur. Soul windows peer into the empire of Zizou. Her spine is ripped forward as her nothing body follows. The long shadow of a structure containing wood pulps and broken down VR synthetics, infused with gelling-like skin cultures and found earth pittings from an obscured origin. High-pitched squeals, a pink ray to the brain, the homicide blue tinge of the way the leaves of the forest look at night in subparts of the world. The constant asphyxiation of clothes sewn from an irregular cut, meant to fix the forever anxieties and horrors of modern life, languishing behind person-sized mirrors placed in the center of an unexpected clearing within the dense foliage of a place no one should ever have to visit, a matte black canvas. The trouble with all of this appears once the sun departs, and all that remains are the visible, anti-aliased edges of a traumatized irreality. Violent and horrifying end results forever entombed within the musted-out recesses of a weak mind. Perfect diagrams producing angular shapes jutting out of strange angles, slashing the night sky with slants and doses of oozing liquids. The dropped sphere box, the one from out of the sky, a lazy helicopter reveals itself moments before the climax, the chop-chop sound disturbing that which lies dormant at the bottom of a cave. Zizou sees planets, a parallel universe with colors extending far beyond the human visual spectrum, a place that should not exist, where Zizou and everyone else is made of shiny metals and archaic circuitry. Images upon images of broken statuettes and floor plans of destroyed museums, fragmented peninsulas and disrupted kettle lakes, an agonizing crawl toward a toxic muck, mystic lava lakes, fountains of youth. Zizou floats through invisible molecules and subatomic virtual particles, creating waves of erasure, slicing quasomes of potential air, reducing quarks into even more minuscule shreds of deep fat rendered in benign dark edge materials. Zizou sees the beginning of time, hears planets explode, witnesses black holes disappearing and then reappearing again, more planets exploding, moons and atmospheres and stratus clouds forming, cyclones and dust storms and undiscovered pressure systems and earthquakes, tsunamis and warp barriers. Zizou tries to open her eyes in an attempt to escape these terrible visions, but all Zizou can see when she opens her eyes is fire and smoke and clouds and dust and bright lights. Oceans are burning. No sound of birds or any other brand of natural din or ambience. The sun appears zonked in a crude and metameric sky. It is silence. Not too far away, a burned pit with moon markings left in the dirt. The matte black canvas again of an earthen sea, serving as a backdrop to a psychic MIDI composition. The lurch of a Roland JV 1010 dark bass tone enveloping several mood pieces into a sort of abstract digital artifact object, unsafe space made horror. A new expansion card is loaded, promising panpipes, sounds, and medieval flute samples. This particular sequence for Zizou brings forth images and sequences of birds materializing from out of the trees and blue waterfalls, all of this adding to an already turgid artificiality of exiled bliss. Zizou feels intense spaghettification. And this is the part where she goes back to the concert, and that's where I'm going to stop. I apologize for my extreme sweatiness, but I'm a sweaty person.